QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. Hello and welcome to the 23rd episode of QuaranJazz, your weekly update on the achievements of the independent jazz scene. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer, songwriter and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and every week I bring you the stories of these jazz musicians who are doing amazing things despite of the conditions of this peculiar year. You may listen to the episodes for their unique stories or try to marathon through the 23 episodes so far to get a pretty accurate portrait on how the pandemic affected the independent jazz scene. If you are a jazz musician and would like to tell your stories here as well, you will find several ways to contact me in the description of this episode, including a link to my website, geisafernandes.com, and to my mailing list for exclusive regular content. You will also find the link for QuaranJazz, the playlist on Spotify, including all the songs played during the episodes and bonus tracks from the featured artists. Check out one of our next updates on QuaranJazz, the playlist.
No talk, all jazz.
Pretty cool, huh? You just got a taste from Gone with the Wind, the bonus track from our guest today in QuaranJazz. And this week, QuaranJazz goes Italy, directly from Rome, a city where I spent only 1 week but learned to love for the rest of my life. We'll have the pleasure to talk with pianist and composer Paolo Pavan. Ciao, Paolo! Thank you very much for being part of QuaranJazz. I know that your love affair with music is quite long, but I would like you to start, well, as usual here in QuaranJazz, I ask my guests to start by describing their music, the kind of music they do. Introduce yourself a bit to our listeners, please.
Thank you, Geisa, for the invitation to your nice initiative. My name is Paolo Pavan. I am 49 years old and I am a jazz pianist and composer from Rome. I fell in love with music very early in my life. I was only 9 years old when, passing by the only music shop in my area, I was struck by an organ being played, and it was love at first sight. I forced my mom to enter, and I decided that organ had to be mine the soonest. It was my favorite present for the first communion.
Love at first sight indeed. That's such a cute story.
I had a spontaneous approach with music, for sure. At the age of 14, I entered the St. Louis Jazz School, which at the time was the most important jazz music school in Rome. There I had quite a strong impact with the improvisation-based method, something which marked the rest of all my music. At the St. Louis I started playing for the first time with the study groups formed in the school. It was such an important experience for me, as I had the possibility to get closer to the world of improvisation and at the same time to be faced with other musicians of the groups. Later, I was enabled to play in groups of different kind, jazz, funk, hip-hop and dance, and be on tour as a pianist or keyboard player. The world of pure jazz was not yet in my plans. Too adult for me to think about it. I prefer the sound of synthesizer, which helped me to enlarge my creative universe and mainly to finance my studies. At the university, I terminated with a thesis on modal jazz. I was attracted by the classical music while listening to Glenn Gould. In full autonomy and simply for pleasure, I started playing Bach's well-tempered clavier. As I was not satisfied with my executions, I got my performances heard by a teacher of the Santa Cecilia Academy, who encouraged me to undertake classic studies. I started with Scarlatti, Mozart, Beethoven and Ravel, until I found myself at the age of 30 with the conservatory diploma to study Rachmaninoff with the internationally known Konstantin Bogino. It was him who reminded me about my jazz past experience and convinced me to return to the way I was playing before, which I had totally left out. I prepared a number of concerts performing improvisation on Bach's preludes and fugues. I transcribed in pure jazz style Beethoven's Sonata 109 and I took part in a seminar conducted by Kenny Barron. Hence the idea of a jazz quartet, to be free to express my idea of music. I met the saxophonist Davide Marinacci, who helped me a lot to realize my first albums, Inside, Looking for a Way Out, and The Swing of Things. They are original albums, the result of daily work and the study of important jazz interpreters such as John Coltrane, McCoy Tyner, Herbie Hancock, Thelonious Monk, Buddy Powell, and others. From its start, the quartet interpreted my idea of music, a theme-based composition to begin with and then pushing rhythms and soloists to their absolute limit, until a symbiotic relationship among the four was born. Interplaying was in fact the long training work, and the result was a common creation that we performed in Rome's most remarkable jazz clubs, among which Alexanderplatz, Bebop, also some festivals. Something important that I would like to say is that I've been joining for 20 years the Creative Commons project, which allowed me to skip the standard copyright and think that music should be a cultural subject to be joined by everybody, and the same should be done for the school material as well. I am thinking about medicine, for instance. Nowadays, free exchange of scientific material would be ideal. Thanks to Creative Commons, I had the chance to be on a number of websites, just like the one of Jamendo Friends, who have always supported me and gave me the possibility to meet many people who share the same ideas as mine. The most important among them is Pasqualino Baldini, an ethnic chords player. We realized together 2 fusion and world music albums, Up and Lines, on a free listening and download on the Jamendo platform. All my music projects are homemade and produced in my tiny technological studio with the help of my brother Roberto, a sound engineer always in search of new inventions to improve the sound.
And Paolo, how did the COVID crisis affected you? I mean, what were you doing when the whole situation exploded?
At the end of February, when the pandemic started spreading in Italy, I was working on different things. I was trying to consolidate my jazz trio that just in that period was waiting to present in a jazz club of Rome its CD Black Hand. At the same time, I was training at the Mosaic Project for her interpretation of Pasqualino Ubaldini music, who left us in 2019. On those days, after our first concert at the Archie Club in Rome, we were still testing each other and trying to finalize the arrangements done until then. I still remember that the day before our rehearsal, the saxophonist Natalino Friglia called me, saying that our rehearsal were postponed since there was a government provision banning all those activities that could create gathering of people. Among those activities, musical rehearsal of course. The newly shaped Davide Marinacci quartet was also stopped. In short, in Rome, as in the rest of the world, we suddenly found ourselves isolated in our houses, forced to interrupt any kind of common project. The economic crisis already existing in Italy suddenly became a total lockdown. For me personally, the stop meant a real surge in my creativity and music. The lockdown allowed me to a full-time reorganization of ideas. Concerning my piano, I had the chance to study in deep a number of aspects that were missing due to my frenetic routine life: fingers technique, body relax, and the study of polyrhythm. I took back the study of my superheroes solo, McCoy Tyner, Kenny Kirkland, whose music is always present on my piano. For what concerns my compositions, I returned to my jazz trio project, which I will figure it out as soon as I have the possibility to meet with the people and play. Moreover, I received the idea for the realization of a project of electronics mixed in jazz and fusion sounds. This is called Jaco Project, Electronic Creations of Original Musical Ideas. Its first version is now on Jamendo, and I must admit that is having unexpected positive feedback. Fusion of jazz and electronics is having an unexpected success. Besides, the realization of a cartoon with the music of Chapter 1 is underway, inspired by the Jago idea, which represents the difficulties encountered by the jazzman to be listened to by his audience.
Wow, you sure kept yourself busy. And how is the current situation in Italy, Paolo, concerning lockdown restrictions, flexibilization?
On 18 May, we entered the so-called Phase 2, with a progressive return to normality. To tell you the truth, there are still tested cases of COVID-19, but at least in my city, Rome, virus circulation has been remarkably reduced. Unfortunately, from my point of view, Italy is still suffering a lot, but I believe that this is due to a bad management of the country's economic much before the pandemic. If the ordinary economic activities struggle to survive, entertainment is collapsing. Summer concerts and festivals are postponed to 2021. There is much talk about the Italian renewal, and I hope, if it happens, that the cultural background will be taken into consideration. As Fabrizio De André, poet and singer, was saying in his song Via del Campo, dai diamanti non nasce niente, dall'etame nascono i fiori, which means something like flowers are born from manure and not from diamonds. It suits indeed the specific moment we are facing, and I would use it as a wish for our renaissance.
What made things even double scary concerning the Italian situation was the fact that Italy got deeply affected very early in the pandemic, so when the international community knew basically almost nothing about the virus. And Paolo, what are your future plans?
For the future, I hope I'll be able to return live. My music lives for that. The it breathes and takes its shape. I look forward for the reopening in September of clubs and spaces for live music presently locked. If it is so, I will start with the promotion of my CD Black Hand and the live of my trio and possibly a new CD with 7 tracks, which are a mixture between contemporary sounds and tradition. I will also perform with Davide Marinacci with his original program of post-Coltrane Arbop music. I also hope that you will see Jaco turning from a mere electronic production into material for live performances. I also wish that the world music project Mosaic will soon perform live too.
At the beginning of this episode, we had the pleasure to listen a bit from Gone with the Wind, your track that will be in QuaranJazz the playlist. But what about the track you've selected for us to listen today in full? What can you tell us about it?
I have chosen Open the Source from the CD The Swing of Things for a number of reasons. First, for its funky rhythm, its groove that has always been a fundamental element for me. Bass and drums create a rhythmic ostinato where everything is possible when there is the right feeling. Open the Source is played by my quartet, Davide Marinacci on tenor saxophone, Francesco Merenda on drums, Carmine Iuvone on double bass, with the collaboration of Pasqualino Baldini on guitar and Fabio Sartori on Hammond. Open the Source is an invitation to open the sources and to think that music, like any other cultural activities, must be free and shared by all. So enjoy the music and see you around.
Thank you Paolo very much for your participation. Thank you so much. Grazie. This was the 23rd episode of QuaranJazz. Thank you, dear listener, for staying with us. I'm Geisa Fernandes, singer-songwriter and music researcher from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, bringing you every week updates from the independent international jazz scene during 2020, the year when we all learned that we need arts more than ever, we need music more than ever, and if it can be jazz, even better. If you would like to keep the jazz running, there are several ways to contact me, all listed in the description of this episode. And if you'd like to know more about my own work as a singer, songwriter, and other podcasts that I do, visit my website, geisafernandes.com. In case you would like to learn more about jazz festivals, especially those that take submissions directly from artists, join the Touring Jazz Musician, a group that I created and manage on Facebook. QuaranJazz is also a proud participant of the Social Distancing Festival. The link to the page of this amazing action is also listed in the description of this episode. And last but certainly not least, don't forget to check QuaranJazz the playlist on Spotify with the tracks included in the podcast episodes.
No talk, all jazz.
Well, my dear listener, it is now time to bid you farewell. Till next week, and now, ladies and gents, open the source. QuaranJazz. Listen while you're home. QuaranJazz, a podcast by Geisa Fernandes.